In the headlines for this hour on VTV News, State President meets with a representative of generation of Vietnamese people in Japan. Prime Minister urges relevant agencies to speed up public investment disbursement. In war news, Israel and Hamas complete third hostage exchange.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 3 p.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. The housing law amended and the law on ID card were approved by the National Assembly during the 6 sessions on the morning of November 27th. The law on ID card, which will take effect on July 1st of the following year, includes new regulations on collecting iris information for the purpose of verifying and authenticating individuals' identities. It also provides support for individuals with disability or deformed fingerprints who are unable to provide fingerprints. Unlike the Citizen Identification Law of 2014, the ID card no longer needs to display information about hometown and fingerprint. The housing law designates the Vietnam General Confederation of Labor as the governing body for investment projects related to the construction of social housing for workers and renters. The funding for these projects will come from the union's financial resources.
Cũng đã gửi trước các vị đại biểu. Xin mời phòng máy chuẩn bị. Về các nội dung này. Đã có 83.
During his official visit to Japan, State President Võ Văn Thưởng held a meeting with representatives of Vietnamese generations who have made significant contributions to Vietnam-Japan relations. These representatives, including those who have lived and worked in Japan since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries, expressed their belief in the strong bond between the Japanese and Vietnamese people. They also expressed hope for increased programs that would bring Vietnamese students to Japan for high-quality training, thus contributing to Vietnam's human resource development. State President Võ Văn Thưởng expressed his joy and pride in the contributions made by generations of Vietnamese people to the relations between the two countries. In discussions with officials and employees of the Vietnamese embassy in Japan, State President Võ Văn Thưởng emphasized the high level of political trust in Japan-Vietnam relations. He also expressed his commitment to further strengthening the 50-year foundations of diplomatic relations. The embassy responsibilities include protecting over 500,000 Vietnamese citizens and promoting culture cooperation and people-to-people exchanges between Vietnam and Japan. State President Võ Văn Thưởng and his spouse commenced an official visit to Japan on Sunday. This visit holds significant importance as it aligns with the 50th anniversary of the establishment of bilateral diplomatic relations, further enhancing the extensive strategic partnership between the two countries.
Although diplomatic relations have only been established for 50 years, Vietnam-Japan relations can be traced back to the 8th century, with evidence of trade and cultural exchanges in Hoi An. Over the past 50 years, the two countries have made remarkable progress in various areas of cooperation, including politics, economics, and people-to-people exchanges. Japan serves as Vietnam's largest ODA donor, the second largest importer of Vietnamese manpower, the third largest investor, and the fourth largest trade partner.
Japan is deeply involved in Vietnam's innovation and development. For example, in 2003, Japan launched an initiative called the Japan-Vietnam Joint Initiative to improve the investment environment in Vietnam. After 20 years, the initiative has helped Vietnam attract many investors from Japan as well as other countries.
The state president's visit once again affirms the party and state's consistent foreign policy, which considers Japan a leading and long-term important partner. This visit aims to contribute to strengthening political trust and enhancing cooperation in various areas during the new development period.
Japan wants to support Japanese companies to continue investing in Vietnam in the context of Vietnam's supply chain transition. Vietnam and Japan are two countries that can train highly skilled human resources in IT. Japan wants to realize the potential for the two countries to become innovation partners in green and digital transformation.
In the future, the cooperation between the two countries will extend beyond bilateral levels to regional and global levels. Both Vietnam and Japan are members of numerous significant regional and international forums. Therefore, the coordination between these two countries within these forums will undoubtedly make practical contributions to peace, stability, and cooperation for shared prosperity worldwide.
Based on the progress made in the past 50 years, it is expected that Vietnam-Japan relations will deepen in the new period. This will involve expanding into new areas of cooperation, with the aim of bringing mutual benefits and prosperity to the people of both countries.
On Monday, the standing government held a conference chaired by Prime Minister Phie to address the disbursement of public investment. According to a report from the Ministry of Finance, the estimated disbursement of state budget capital nationwide in the past 11 months has reached over 65%, nearly 7% higher compared to the same period last year. However, the Ministry of Finance also reported that there are 41 ministry central agencies in 24 localities whose disbursement rate of public investment capital in the past 10 months is below the national average. During the conference, Prime Minister Phie emphasized the importance of responsibility for each agency's unit, ministries, branch, and locality, especially their leaders. The delayed disbursement has been a recurring issue for many years in terms, and it is considered a key concern by the central government, the National Assembly, and their government in terms of leadership and direction. According to the State Bank of Vietnam, the economic credit has exceeded $527.2 billion by November of this year, marking a 7.39% increase compared to the end of 2022. In line with this, banks are actively enhancing the connections with businesses to boost lending in the final months of the year.
Over $205 million to purchase goods for production and business purposes. As an export enterprise in priority fields, they have obtained preferential loans in both foreign and domestic currencies, resulting in savings of hundreds of millions of dong in interest for the business.
We are borrowing at an interest rate of 5% in dollars and 7% in Vietnamese dong. Short-term loans typically last around 3 months, which is equivalent to one cycle of purchasing, processing, and exporting. In the near future, we anticipate a 30% increase in exports, so we will need to borrow a corresponding amount of money as well.
In addition to preferential interest rates, this enterprise also received support in terms of structural policies. This allowed them to maintain their position within the same debt group, ensuring uninterrupted access to capital during these challenging times.
Currently, interest rates have dropped significantly, with medium-term rates below 10% and short-term rates below 7%. Businesses, especially those facing financial difficulties, are also receiving considerable support from banks.
To enhance the economy's capacity to absorb capital by the end of the year, the State Bank has reinforced the links between banks and businesses to alleviate challenges and facilitate businesses' access to capital more efficiently. Banks should maintain the provision of favorable interest rates and direct credit towards priority sectors, including investment, consumption, and export.
We have added $493 million, which includes $287 million for corporate customer loans with interest rates of 5 to 6%. In cases where customers are facing difficulties and cannot recover quickly, we also apply Circular 02 of the State Bank to restructure their debts.
Of course, banks still need to ensure the safety of their loans. However, both banks and enterprises should share information to support each other in matters such as handling collateral, lending unsecured loans, and monitoring cash flow. This would help reduce the procedures for using assets secured by real estate, as is currently done.
In addition, the State Bank also requires credit institutions to review and reduce operating costs, simplify lending procedures, and continue to decrease lending interest rates. Simultaneously, it aims to promote the disbursement of support packages worth $4.93 billion for social housing and worker housing and $616 million for the forestry and fishery sectors.
The cost for farmers' spiny lobster can sometimes reach up to $107 per kilogram. However, the current price has dropped to just $40 per kilogram. Despite this significant price drop, lobster consumptions remain stagnant, resulting in hundreds of tons of lobsters that cannot be exported to the Chinese market. In response, the ministries and authorities of the South Central provinces are making efforts to resolve the deadlock in lobster export before the Lunar New Year. The following story provides more details.
Van Phong Bay, Con Hoa Province, is the primary rock lobster production area in Vietnam. Despite being ready for sale, the spiny lobsters remain in their cages. As such, farmers have to keep feeding them, incurring additional costs and accumulating debts.
People often have to borrow money from the bank to feed their lobsters. When they are unable to sell them, it becomes very difficult for them.
It is estimated that hundreds of tons of lobsters are unable to be exported in two key lobster farming areas, Con Hoa and Phu Yen. Many farmers have tens of thousands of rock lobsters that they are unable to sell.
Our cooperative has 32 members and currently has a backlog of nearly 100 tons of lobster that we are unable to export to China.
In May 2023, China added spiny lobsters to the list of endangered wild animals that require protection. In order to export lobsters to China, businesses must provide evidence that the lobsters were not caught directly from the sea. They must also clearly demonstrate the farming process, and the breeding stock must be from the F2 generation.
The Ministry of Industry and Trade will engage in negotiations with the Chinese Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs and the General Administration of Customs. The aim is to address immediate and long-term challenges, particularly leading up to the Lunar New Year, in order to facilitate the export of spiny lobsters.
This year, the lobster output in the farming area of the South Central provinces is approximately 4,000 tons, with spiny lobster representing about 25% of the total output.
National E-commerce Week, the largest national e-commerce event of the year, is taking place from today until December 3rd. One of the highlights of the program called 60 Hours Vietnam Online Shopping Day, Online Friday 2023, which will start this Friday, December 1st. The program aims to achieve approximately 1 billion views across various platforms, process 3 million orders, and attract 500 brands and 3,000 businesses on Online Friday. Additionally, during the National E-commerce Week, there is an e-commerce experience and music festival happening at Hoàn Kiếm Lake Walking Street in Hanoi. And before moving on to some other news, let's take a look at foreign exchange rate for today, November 27th. Coming up next on VTV News, Vietnam committed to ensuring rights of ethnic people. And Thừa Thiên Huế province protects mangrove forests on path to net zero commitment. The Vietnamese delegation departed for Switzerland on Monday to defend its fifth national report on the implementations of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, or CERT, at a session in Geneva on November 29th and 30th. The convention is one of the 9 fundamental international conventions of the United Nations on human rights. As a member of the conventions for over 40 years, Vietnam has made significant progress in promoting the rights of ethnic minorities.
The average growth rate in ethnic and mountainous areas is 7% per year, which is higher than the national average. Over 2 million ethnic households in mountainous areas have successfully escaped poverty. 100% of ethnic and economically disadvantaged individuals have access to free health insurance. The 15th National Assembly has the highest representation of ethnic deputies compared to the previous 4 tenures, with 89 out of 499. These are some of the notable highlights included in the 5th National Report submitted to the CRD by the Committee for Ethnic Minority Affairs.
Vietnam aims to share its progress in lawmaking over the past 10 years with the United Nations and international friends. Vietnam has consistently emphasized human rights through the introduction of 12 new bills, which include articles specifically related to the rights of ethnic people.
During the period from 2016 to 2020, the state prioritized allocating a budget of over $40 million to implement investment programs and projects that support socio-economic development in ethnic and mountainous areas. Starting in 2021, Vietnam has established a national target program specifically dedicated to these areas, featuring the most comprehensive projects ever undertaken.
I think changes are definitely there. The government officials are becoming more sensitive to those particular issues. They are developing policies and programs to ensure that the ethnic minorities are not left behind. And in fact, the committee, CRD, is going to review the performance of Vietnam very soon.
Ensuring the rights of ethnic people is a significant challenge in Vietnam. However, Vietnam has successfully defended its national report 4 times before the CRD, Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, since signing the convention in 1982. This success can be attributed to the implementation of breakthrough policies on the development of ethnic minority and mountainous areas.
In addition to the allocation of $3.09 billion for implementing national target programs from 2021 to 2025, localities have also prioritized approximately $1.57 billion from their local budgets to support lending to poor households and policy beneficiaries. According to Directive Number 40 of the Party's Central Committee Secretariat, localities are required to reduce public spending in order to prioritize poverty reduction efforts. The goal is to reduce the poverty rate as measured by the multidimensional poverty standards to 2.9%, the number of poor households in the poor district to about 33%, and in ethnic areas to about 17.8%. As of now, social policy credit amounting to nearly $26 billion has been granted to nearly 19 million poor households and policy beneficiaries. English has become a mandatory subject for students in Vietnam starting from grade 3 as part of the new general education program. This has brought increased public attention to the shortage of English teachers in many parts of Vietnam, particularly in remote areas. To address these problems and encourage a new generation of language teachers, a new initiative has been implemented. This initiative provides scholarships to pedagogical students.
These students are all from Mèo Vạc District, Hà Giang Province. They have been shortlisted to receive the first month of scholarships awarded by the Marie Curie School in Hanoi. Each student will receive a monthly stipend of $200 throughout their 4 years of university, with the condition that they pursue a teaching career in their hometown after graduation. The authorities of Mèo Vạc District will arrange their teaching positions.
I have taken it upon myself to study hard to not let the support I get go to waste.
This is a higher level of responsibility than I had anticipated. I am not only receiving money for my own education but also for the future education of students. This is not just a one-time solution, it has a long-term vision.
The value of scholarships offered by Marie Curie School will be up to $495,000. This is expected to help the district of Mèo Vạc attract enough students for its new English teaching program.
Our humble contribution to improving the lives of people and the education of children in the more remote parts of the country will, in turn, help strengthen our country's border area.
For the past 4 years, Marie Curie School has been organizing free online English classes for all elementary school students in Myeongpak District. Continued efforts to promote professional training for English teachers will help address the pronounced shortage of English teachers here.
We all agree that this form of financial support is compassionate and fundamentally effective. It helps build a more sustainable future for education in general, and specifically for English teaching, for children in this remote area.
Scholarships not only provide future teachers with the opportunity to pursue their dreams, but also ensure access to basic education for the majority of students.
Vietnam has been taking actions to fulfill its COP26 commitments of reducing its carbon footprint and achieving net zero emissions by 2050. And one of the key initiatives is the preservation and expansion of mangrove forests in coastal areas. A report from Thừa Thiên Huế province.
A total of 45 hectares of mangrove forests have been planted along the Tam Giang Lagoon. These mangrove forests have achieved a survival rate of nearly 90%. This success is the result of the community mangrove planting and restoration program that began in 2016.
The forest is thriving, providing a safe home for various species, including birds and mayflies. As villagers, we also experience increased income.
The forest has prevented and minimized damage caused by natural disasters, pressure on lakes, dams, and people's livelihoods.
Over the course of 6 years, 4,000 hectares of mangrove forests have been restored across 6 provinces. Scientists are also calculating the amount of carbon accumulation in the forest soil. The organic carbon accumulation in coastal mangrove forests is 1.5 times greater than that of inland forests, making it a crucial component in balancing the local ecosystem and supporting aquatic life.
The carbon content beneath these mangrove forests may not be significant in quantity, but it holds great biological importance due to its geographic distribution in critical areas.
We will be undertaking with MARD a carbon stock assessment, and that means we'll be able to identify how much carbon the mangrove forests are able to sequester.
Currently, there are 15 million hectares of mangrove forests worldwide. However, these forests are vulnerable to degradation and suffer damage almost every year. Therefore, developing coastal forests as part of a rapid climate change response is the shared goal for Vietnam and many other countries.
The Okm Boke Festival, also known as the Moon Offering Festival of the Khmer people, was recently restored by Sóc Trăng province. This festival serves as an opportunity to express gratitude to the moon, which is believed to regulate crops and bring prosperity. The festival includes various offerings, with flat green rice being an essential component. Green rice holds great significance in both the materials and spiritual aspects of people's life. As part of the festival, artisans were invited to demonstrate the process of making green rice. In addition to preserving and promoting traditional cultural beauty, the festival also served as an appealing tourism attraction. Coming up next in our war news, Israel-Hamas complete third hostage exchange. And warmer climate shift global farming practices. Hamas armed wing announced on Sunday that it has handed over 13 Israeli captives and 7 foreign nationals to the International Committee of the Red Cross. Among the hostages released was Abigail Idan, a 4-year-old girl, and dual Israel-American citizens. Abigail was the first American hostage to be released during the temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Simultaneously, Israel released 39 Palestinian citizens. The agreement between Israel and Hamas stipulated a 4-day pause in fighting in return for the release of 50 hostages held by Hamas and 150 Palestinian prisoners in Israel. As part of the ceasefire deal, Hamas has released a total of 58 hostages. A significant rise in respiratory diseases has been reported in many parts of China, particularly in northern provinces and cities like Beijing, Liaoning, and Tianjin. In response to this upsurge, China's health authorities are intensifying their efforts in disease examinations and treatment to prevent another outbreak. The National Health Commission of China has attributed the nationwide increase to a combination of pathogens, including influenza viruses and mycoplasma pneumonia. The agency has advised the health sector to enhance its capacity in facility, services, and medicines. Additionally, it is essential to strengthen disease surveillance in community settings such as schools, daycares, and nursing homes. Wang Hongqing, an expert from the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, had also recommended the use of vaccine as an effective measure against respiratory infections caused by viruses or bacteria such as measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox. The development of artificial intelligence AI has ushered in the new era for humanity where banning it is deemed impossible. Russian President Vladimir Putin made this statement during the plenary sessions of the recent conference Journey to the World of Artificial Intelligence in Moscow. Russian President Putin praised the rapid applications of AI in science, education, and public health, highlighting its potentials to enhance people's quality of life. He announced his intentions to soon approve an updated version of the development of artificial intelligence in response to the ever-increasing pace of technological advancement. In October 2019, Russian President Putin initially approved the national strategies for the development of artificial intelligence, which sets the foundation for the country's advancement in science and technologies with a focus on AI until 2030. The global agricultural scene is experiencing unexpected changes as a result of the growing effects of global warming. Soil conditions have altered in many regions, leading to fundamentally adverse farming practices, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere. More in the following story.
Scandinavia wasn't considered prime wine country just a few years ago, according to connoisseurs. However, with climate change leading to warmer and longer growing seasons, Swedish wines are now developing a mature and pleasant bouquet.
It's around 100 days from flowering to maturing, and that has not been above 10 centigrades.
Meanwhile, the changing weather in southern UK is nurturing the country's vineyards and wineries that can rival those in France's Champagne or Burgundy region.
We can ripen grapes now to a much higher level than we could do 10-15 years ago.
Sorghum, originally grown in the Sahel region of Africa, is now the solution for many French farmers. Over the past 4 years, the sorghum area in France has nearly doubled and is soon expected to expand to other European countries. The composition of arable land has been more or less transformed across the world, allowing some regions to grow plants indigenous to others. This seemingly impossible change is taking place in many agricultural areas as a result of global warming.
And now, as usual, let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's all the news for today. To rewatch our program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.